Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. For those of you who follow the show, you've heard my last episode with Carolee Whipple of Ecolawn Heber-Midway, and today will be kind of fun. I've got her husband in here. He's got his own companies, and so it's kind of fun to have a couple that each have their own companies. Sometimes they help each other out, they cross over. And so I thought it'd be fun to put those as back-to-back episodes. So here we go today. Hope you enjoyed this one. This is with Lawrence Whipple of Burgeon Digital Marketing. Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Ete with another episode of The Company Next Door. Appreciate you guys being here with us today. So as our intro said already, I've got Lawrence Whipple here, the husband of Carolee. So fun to do kind of a back-to-back thing. We're going to talk a little bit about his story coming from potato land of Idaho and ending up here in, well, I wouldn't say the big city of Heber, Utah, but the small big city of Heber, Utah. And, he does a lot of work in the digital marketing space, among some other things. And so we'll jump in. So Lawrence, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Robert.
Oh, I got to edit that, man. So we're joking because both of us have different names. We have multiple names just for this. It's a whole thing. We won't get into that. And so I wouldn't normally say Lawrence, but for those of you who clients or potential clients, that's his professional name, and it's a very professional name.
It is.
I mean, it's when I think Lawrence, I think, wow, that's a real entrepreneur.
It's made me who I am today.
It is who you are. What I want to do is kind of go back. I know you came from Idaho, and for a lot of people out there, I never even heard of Idaho when I was a kid in Jersey, nor Utah, to be honest. And even today, sometimes I just picture a bunch of potatoes. I picture, wide open. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and kind of what was it like? Am I right? Was it just potatoes or what?
A lot of potatoes, yeah. But my dad, he actually came from a very small ranching town called Lund in Nevada.
Okay.
And the Whipple name there is actually, they own that town essentially. It's all cattle farmers. And so he was raised in that cowboy setting, legit cowboys, breaking horses, herding cattle up in the mountains, those kind of things. Branding. I have a lot of experience in in different parts of cows that I never thought, I would. But so anyway, I was raised with that mentality, the very outdoorish, the very cowboy tough guy mentality. So we were always doing something outside. My dad essentially let us do whatever we wanted. We had motorcycles when we were 8, 9 years old, and these are full-grown motorcycles. We were driving pickup trucks when we were 12, and most of the time we were outside for sure. So a typical day would be me getting out of bed, running outside, and not coming back until dinner time or until my mom made me. And in that, I was feeding horses, petting cows, petting sheep, feeding chickens, chasing chickens, anything you can think of in a farm environment. So that's a lot of my memories of Idaho. But I think what most people don't know, and we actually in Idaho, we try and keep this a secret, and I'm telling you guys a very privileged secret right now. Idaho is beautiful. There are places in Idaho that I haven't seen in other places, in any place else, as far as comparison of beauty and the mountains, the trees, the lakes. There's a town that we would go to every year, and I'm not going to say it because sworn to secrecy. We literally tell people there's nothing there for you, but that town has my heart. That town is pristine. That town is everything that you would imagine a mountain paradise to be. So we would go there probably every year, at least once, for, I don't know, a decade or so.
Wow. So I've barely begun to jump into Idaho, but it's not, everybody else, when you're not from this part of the world, you just literally picture fields of potatoes. And you're right, from what I'm starting to see, kind of want to move up there at some point. I mean, it looks amazing. So your dad, you say he was more of the cowboy. What was he doing for work? I mean, you had animals. Were you guys on a big farm, or what? Was he an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So my dad started out working at a bank. I'm not really sure what exactly he all did in that position, but he moved around within the management of the bank, and then he decided to do his own thing. And from there, he took our family a little bit on a roller coaster ride with his different ventures. He was in real estate. He sold gym equipment. He sold cast iron stoves that he would make. I don't remember all the things that he did, but it was quite a bit of up and down for my mom, financially, because I think I kind of take after him, and so do my brothers, that we have this spirit about us that we're better off working on our own or taking charge on our own and not being told what to do. We have a hard time being told what to do. So I think all of my brothers and me have ended up in our own little entrepreneur ventures later in life.
That's interesting. So what do you know? A couple things there. Do you know why your dad made the switch from banking, a more steady career? Was it that same spirit? Was he just not happy and he wanted to, or was he just too creative to be sitting there and not expressing it, or what? Or did you always grow up him being that entrepreneur?
He was in banking until I really don't have a lot of memories of him banking. And I'm the second youngest of the family, so that was the first half of the family life. He was pretty set in that for a while. But I think his roots got to him. When you're a cowboy, you're doing your own thing. You're herding cattle. You're taking charge all the time.
You're not boxed up.
You're not boxed up.
Gotcha.
And I think that there's a spirit there that an untamed spirit, a wild spirit kind of thing that he had in him, and it kind of drove him to do things outside of the box and not do a 9 to 5. And that's, I think, also what has driven our family as well, or my brothers and me.
So tell me a little bit. You mentioned your brothers. How many do you have, and what are they all running their own companies? And just give us a brief. What kind of companies? Like what?
Sure. So I have 2 brothers, both older. One of my brothers, they both went to law school. They both are lawyers technically. My one brother, he became a patent lawyer, and then he basically was working for an office, and then I'm not really sure exactly what he's doing, what capacity, but essentially he's working on his own in a way. I think he's part of a practice, but he's kind of doing his own thing. Mm. And then my other brother, he was a lawyer and he worked at the World Trade Center. I don't really remember exactly I think it was corporate law or whatever. And then went into disability law, and then he started his own, what is it? It's a financial service, down payment assistance company. That's what it is.
Sure.
So he's been doing that for the last several years. It's grown quite large. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you're growing up, up here in Idaho, and the picture you're painting really sounds nice to me, animals and just wide open space, and just being a kid roaming and just having that freeness. And then, so at that time, as you're walking, going through high school up there, did you have a plan of what you were going to do? Did you always set out, I'm going to be self-employed, I'm going to run my own companies, or did you have another path? And then walk me through, through college and that.
Sure. So high school, I didn't think at all, literally.
Sounds about, yeah.
Yeah, I just passed through it, barely passed as much as whatever it took to pass, I guess, is what I ended up with.
Yeah.
And then I went on my mission. I served an LDS mission. And that is where I think I got the confidence or ability or understanding that I could do whatever I put my mind to it. I mean, the mission was very hard. Missions are hard, obviously. You are in charge of not just yourself, but a companionship, and in some cases more missionaries and districts and zones and those kind of things, and so it just gets you. It flips a switch. At least it flipped a switch for me that, okay, I'm actually someone who can think for myself.
Yeah.
I can actually think.
Yeah.
I can actually make things happen, set goals and achieve goals. That was the first time in my life that I've ever even thought that way.
Huh.
So then I come home.
So real quick, so it's a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and you served for, was it 2-year period?
2 years, yeah.
And where were you?
Argentina.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So you came back from this, it sounds like a new man who was not so much coasting through life, but starting to think and get your life, get your directions and everything, foundation put together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I get home, I kind of coast for about a year, and then all of my friends were going to college, and I thought, okay, well, I'll hang out in college for a bit. I get enrolled, and my first major was psychology. Stuck with that for about a year. It started to get into things that I just didn't think were valuable to me, and then I moved on to business, and then I moved on to biology, and then I moved on to computer programming.
Okay.
And I stuck with that for a couple of years, and all of these, I don't want to I hope this comes out right, but they were all just easy for me in a way that I didn't feel challenged. I didn't feel like I was reaching my potential.
Sure.
And go ahead.
What did you feel like? Did you feel like, did it not feel valuable to you? Or, I mean...
Yeah, it just seemed like it just seemed like the information that I was learning wasn't something that I felt that I didn't feel like I was gaining intelligence, and I didn't feel like I was gaining thought
wisdom
process and wisdom and knowledge and those kind of things.
Sure. Okay. Absolutely.
And so at that point, my dad had he was big into science and those kind of things at that time, and he sent me an article about neutrinos, which are particles of light, and I was just fascinated by it. I had never even heard of physics before. I didn't even know that existed, and he sent me this, and I was just, wow, what is this? This is amazing, this deep, scientific, mathematical type of stuff that I was just in awe. And a friend of mine, he was taking a physics class, and so I decided to enroll, and that was it for me. I felt challenged. I felt I was learning things that mattered. Everything matters, obviously, but me personally,
yeah, it mattered to you.
It mattered. I was doing something that excited me every day, but it was obviously hard. Physics is a hard major, and then I also minored in math, and because I couldn't really pick which one I enjoyed most, I ended up picking physics. But so that experience essentially got me. Physics taught me to think logically, to think about data, to think about analysis, about proofs, and not just opinions. It helped me to understand the importance of truth and figuring out truth, and not just listening to hearsay or generalizations, but actually dig in and discover things, and that kind of set me on a path towards where I'm at today. As far as you wouldn't think it would relate to digital marketing, but I do a lot of data analysis. I do a lot of things that it's essentially using what I've learned in physics with proofs and with math and formulas and logic and digging in deep to try and find out things that aren't just opinions or guesses.
Awesome. So it sounds like so first of all, it sounds like you found something that really stimulated you. It really pushed you in a way that made you really, have passion and drive.
Yeah.
But then also the experience of this 2-year service where you learn how to be self-disciplined and organized, all that. It sounds like those two elements really prepared you for business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of shifts through college trying to find, and you're not alone. I'm sure a lot of people go through the same thing, right? So now it's time. So you get out of college and you get done school or you finish school, let's put it that way. And then how did you decide? Did you pursue job options, or was at that point where you're like, I can do this. I can make a living on my own?
So out of school, so in school, actually, we started doing these events, and that was my first step into marketing, specifically with social media. And we were doing big events, 3,000, 4,000 people, and we were making, quite a bit of money doing that. And that was just messing around.
So give me a little more details. What kind of events, and were you guys like setting it up, getting all the acts? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Really
so started out as basically dance parties.
Okay.
Everybody wanted to have fun, but in the environment at Provo, Utah, they wanted to have clean fun, and there wasn't a lot of there were general house parties, small types of things, but we were the first ones to come in for some reason and decide that we should charge to have people come to our parties.
That's awesome.
But it worked, and we started to get bigger and bigger. Like I said, some of the biggest was 3,000-4,000 people. We had these big venues, full production, lighting, security. We had cops doing security. Just we were well known for, and we did this. I did this for about 7-8 years. Obviously after college, after I graduated, and just for fun on the side. But we were making $50,000-$60,000 a night.
Wow.
And that was obviously the first time that I've seen that I can make a lot of money with just a little bit of marketing knowledge. There wasn't a lot of stuff we were doing outside of throwing up things on social media, ads, and maybe flyers, and all the types of marketing that businesses do now, but on a smaller scale. And we were getting a lot of reaction.
Gotcha.
And so that carried on, like I said, for about 7-8 years. And then it was time for me to grow up. So
no, I don't know about that, man.
A couple of guys that I had palled around with, they were successful, and they saw what I was doing just in the networking, and we'd brought in pretty good talent as well, not just parties, but we got into concerts and shows, and we kind of made connections with different people, and some of my partners were really influential. They went on to work with Facebook Music and other areas.
Wow.
And so we this small little type of fun thing became something pretty impressive as far as people looking outside and seeing what we're putting together. So we had people coming in and wanting to do partnerships with putting together clubs or business opportunities just from what they were seeing us do. But a couple of my buddies who were in real estate, who were in mortgage and those arenas. About then, it was 2008, the aftermath of it, and there was a lot of these foreclosed homes just sitting around on bank sheets, balance sheets that banks needed to move. So we formed a private equity group where a couple of my partners were assigned with getting these properties, getting these big trades, and these trades can be from anywhere from 10, 20 homes upwards of hundreds of homes. And then me and another partner were assigned networking to get the investment.
Gotcha.
And so we spent a few years doing that, bringing in quite a bit of money to fund these trades. And that was another, I'd say in the scheme of things, I enjoyed that particular situation more than anything. Being in that environment where you're dealing with the most successful people in the world. We were working with, billionaires, millionaires, investors from all over the world, big venture groups, people that and companies that really I had no right to be involved in, but we were able to network and use the same principles.
Sounds exciting about being around that.
Yeah. And so that was just a whole nother world for me, just having these big league guys looking to get in contact with me and our group and flying out to meet us and just all of this excitement about what we were doing. And it just made me feel important.
Sure.
And it made me feel confident that,
You can do
hey,
it.
I can do it. I've had a few chains, with the parties and events to this. It started to build a track record in me of, gee, I can actually do stuff. I don't have to work for someone else.
Right. That's awesome. So did that group disband, or how did you? Because then you moved on. That's what
Yeah.
happened
So
then?
the amount of homes that were available and the ability to get those homes and those lists started to fade and die down. So eventually it was decided. We moved on. A couple of the guys went into different types of development. Real estate development and other things.
Gotcha.
Then one of the guys there as well, he started a company. I don't know if I can say the name on this, but it's a big company now.
Okay.
And so he started it, and he was a very wealthy man. He put a lot of money and time into this. It's software, and he saw what I was. Obviously, he'd worked with me as a partner with this private equity group. So he brought me in to do, the networking. We were selling software to financial institutions. And before I came on, they had been working for months and hadn't been able to make a single transaction, a single, lead or sale or whatever it is. And so he brought me in to kind of take it off. And so I transitioned into that. At that point, though, it was more of me being kind of an officer in a company, right? So it wasn't my company.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a good move. I thought there'd be a lot of potential. I thought that there'd be some ownership in there for me possibly. So I went in and I did my thing, and we grew the sales team. We grew the staff. We started, making things happen there. And I was there for about 2 years, and I didn't like it.
Was it because you didn't have the equity? You didn't have you weren't invested in it?
I wasn't. They offered me, as part of my part in the company, they offered me certain percentages.
Sure.
But it was small, and they were new companies, so every time somebody else came in with capital, I would get diluted, and
yeah.
so there wasn't an ownership feeling, and I started to get restless. And I just remember thinking one day there, just sitting at my desk, and I was just thinking, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
It just occurred to me, just kind of a light bulb.
Like
in
you were
my
going
head.
through the motions, and then one day you woke up like, wait,
Yeah.
what am I doing? I don't want to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so had a talk with the the COO there, and parted ways. And I just took off. I didn't have any plans, didn't have any really ideas in my head of what to do next. So I just went home to visit my mother in Idaho and just kind of chill for a bit. And I just remember praying to know the next steps, what direction I should take. And the idea came into my head to start an internet business.
Huh. Just like that.
Just like that. And I knew that it wasn't me because of the way how it occurred.
Yeah.
It was, it was like a bolt of, it's an idea, a light bulb in my head. Anyway, so at that point I was, I'd never started an internet business, my own internet business from scratch. So I just spent the next 6 months diving in, research, learning, messing around, whatever I could to figure things out. I did all sorts of different attempts,
Yeah.
and in the end, after the end of 6 months, I didn't feel like I was going anywhere as far as my own internet business, but I had acquired these skills.
So you acquired the skills over that 6 months of just trial and error?
Yeah, trial and error and learning. I took a lot of courses.
Okay.
I dove in and built websites, figured out, all of that side of things. Just trying to and I never came across something that I could lock onto to sell online that I just felt like I wanted to put my time and effort into it. But at the same time, I was learning, 12, 14 hours a day. Sometimes, I'd wake up at 9. I don't have a job. I can do whatever I want, right? So no judges.
I guess that's supposed to be early, right?
Don't judge me, right? But I'd wake up at 9, and I would be working until 3 or 4 in the morning, just learning this stuff and loving every second of it for 6 months.
Let me ask you this. So you had this, you said you're praying, you're looking for direction. You're looking for some help. What am I supposed to do next? And this idea comes to you in internet business, which is very vague, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, you didn't know, were you not sure, like, are we talking like, so at that point, you didn't know it was going to be a marketing. You were thinking it could be a service, it could be a product.
Right.
You were just spent 6 months filling your brain with everything and anything, learning, growing, trying things to find the answer. Okay, so you've developed skills during this period, but after the 6 months, you still didn't have a clear.
Yeah, and if I was more mature, I probably would have done more praying and more due diligence on what to sell and participating in that exercise with the person who told me to start the internet business. But that is undeniable to me that I had that direction given to me. But at least, at the end of 6 months, I had these skill sets, and I'm thinking, well, I got to do something. So I just started looking for marketing positions. Just maybe I can get better experience by working for someone. Maybe that's going to lead me to my next thing. Is I'm going on my own here, but maybe being involved with a company in marketing will give me some more skills or at least give me some know-how on how to gain skills. So
Absolutely.
I ended up getting a position at a movie studio, and I was their social media person. And, that lasted about a year. And honestly, from then on, right now, literally, it's kind of phasing. Yeah. I don't really know what happened between that time and the next stage, which was when I went to work for a franchise company.
Sure.
And that was about 2013 is when I took a position as director of marketing at that franchise company.
Okay.
I worked there for about 3 years, and then a couple of my buddies came back in the picture. They were starting their own marketing business. They had partnered with a guy who had years of experience and made himself a millionaire with, marketing agencies. So they wanted to bring me on, and I became, the marketing guy over. There was 4 marketing agencies that I was over at that time. And I ran with that, learned a lot of what not to do, really, when I was working in that position. And still, at that point, I felt I had a little bit more control. They kind of left it to me. It's my thing. But things fell apart there. The CEO of that company, which was my friend who brought me in, he and the owner of the company, they didn't get along, so they broke and went their separate ways. And at that point, I didn't feel comfortable staying, and I left. But during that time, so I might have to back up here.
Yeah.
When I left to take that position, the other position that I was at, they still wanted my help.
Gotcha.
So they contracted with me. They basically said, here's this amount of money. We'll pay you every month to do this amount of work because we don't want to let you go.
So you're back in the business at that point.
Right. So at that point, I have clients, right,
Gotcha.
kind of thing. And so then as I start working with these agencies, I start building up these teams of people to do marketing, and I'm training them. But I'm working with them. We're kind of bootstrapping these agencies. So I'm working with them. They are contractors to me. So when I left, I could take those relationships with me as well.
Gotcha.
So I spent, 6-7 months training these guys to do this type of marketing. And when I left, then I could take that relationship, and I was able to still continue using that relationship to help service the clients that I did have. And from there, I've never done an ounce of marketing. I don't even really share with people that I do marketing, but the word gets around, I guess, apparently with the clients that I have had, and within family and with friends, and people have just kind of brought me clients over the years. And so at this point, I have enough clients. I have enough clients to keep me more than busy.
Yeah.
And it all kind of led to it. It all started with an idea in my head, journeying through trying to understand what my role is, and going through these different relationships and different opportunities that just kind of fell in my lap. All of these opportunities that I've talked about, they just kind of fell in my lap and kind of led me to where I'm at now. And now I'm in a position where, I have freedom, I have ownership, I have the ability to determine my destiny. I can take on large volumes of clients, or I can keep it small because I have a team that I can scale with. So it's just, I'm able to just find out a place where I'm comfortable. And I've never really wanted to be a marketer, though, for someone else. I've never wanted to be a marketing agency.
Yeah.
I've always still had that.
You wanted your own thing.
Right. From the initial thought was, start your own marketing business or internet business. It wasn't marketing business. It was internet business. And so I still have had that in my mind. And I've gone through several different opportunities to, products and those kind of scenarios, and nothing really stuck until recently. Me and you have kind of come together on, you've been in a kind of in a similar situation where you've created your own business, you've created, systems, you've created, this business of yours has grown quite a bit, and from that you've gained this knowledge and these ideas, and now you want to do something additional with those knowledge and ideas. And so me and you, a year or so ago, we started talking about it, and just kind of felt right when I heard what you were doing. For some reason, something just kind of fell into place with me, like, okay, this is something I can sink my teeth into. This is something I can get behind. And it's still unclear why, all these years, at any moment, I could have done anything with this marketing knowledge, to sell a product, to have my own internet business, but nothing really kind of meshed right or felt right with me. And then this thing that we've talked about and kind of come together with just fit the bill.
Awesome. And so we'll keep it top secret, but he is disclosing something new that nobody knows, but we have a new startup that will be launching very shortly, probably by the time this episode goes live. So we will address that when that company's up and running, and hopefully as successful as we expect it to be. We'll be coming back, and maybe we'll be too big for this show.
Yeah, I think so. We'll be on our own island.
Yeah, we'll be on our own. But no, it's really cool because so many of the entrepreneurs that I sit down with, very few do I find it was like, yep, I was a kid. I knew I always wanted to be a hotel owner. I always knew, it's often this process of step upon step, line upon line. I had an interview with Katie Sterling of Expedition Flags 2 interviews back, and that was literally her story. She didn't really have sorry, Katie, I don't mean to say you didn't have a game plan, but it was just literally like, you know what, getting one thing at a time, knowing that you were in the right place at the right time. So in your story, you just had this after you were praying, looking for inspiration in internet business. Well, that's vague. You had to spend time, but I love that you just took it, ran with it. You trusted in something, ran with it, and eventually it's leading you. You've been able to take care of yourself and your family and provide all these years, which that on itself is very hard to do. Being out there alone, self-employed, with your team, it's a lot of stress, and it's hard to do that. Most businesses fail. But now, as you've seen it, just a bunch of, they almost seem random. I kind of don't think they're random, but here's all these coincidences that now lead you to something where ownership is there, and it's something you're excited about, and all the skills you've developed over the last 15 years are maybe possibly for this. It almost seems that way.
The things that fell into my lap, the opportunities that were given to me, because I was taking a step of faith, leap of faith, going forward, literally no plan, going into the blind, just trusting on what I had been given, has given me opportunities that are, opportunities for learning and growing that have prepared me for prepared me for something more than just being a marketer.
Okay.
Right? And prepared me for something where I can take control and actually grow and create the success that my family needs.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this: you're in digital marketing, and that is, I think, one of the key things that every entrepreneur who's listening, everybody, they have a great idea, great product, great service, but they struggle to get it off the ground. They need marketing advice experts, people like you. What's one thing that you could share with us, that a little freebie, something that could help us learn? And can you give us a tip for my listeners that have businesses out there and they're going, man, they're struggling with growth? Could you give them maybe one valuable piece of something, knowledge?
Of marketing, know your maximum cost per lead to still be profitable. And what you would, there's plenty of resources to understand that online, but essentially if you know that for any given lead you close those many leads, and from those many closes you make this much revenue, then from there you can calculate the maximum amount that you should pay for a lead to still be profitable with your marketing. And of course you can adjust that cost per lead any way you need to be more profitable or less profitable, however your growth plan is. But if you have that dialed in, then you can hire anyone with confidence and know that you can understand whether or not they're doing a good job. Most of the businesses that I've worked with, they're blind to that, and they simply put their trust in you and they hope that things work out. And that is a poor way of spending your marketing money. So take the time, know your numbers, figure out the maximum amount of money you can spend on a lead, and create the revenue, the profit that you need. And then at that point, anybody that you hire, you can measure, you have a comparison to. You can know pretty quickly within a few months whether or not that was a good decision or not.
What's been one of the hardest moments in the last decade that you've been out there, or 7-8 years that you've been out there on your own? I always like to ask because I feel like we learn so much from the hard parts, is there a time that comes to your mind when you're like, wow, that was brutal? Was there something, a struggle or a failure that you could share with us that we could learn from or make fun of you about?
Oh, man.
All right, not just learn from. Forget to make fun of you about.
I had acquired this client, very large client, $1 billion company, and to run to build their website and to run that whole IT kind of thing. Anyway, one night I was making some changes to it, and I wiped out some settings that controlled their emails and their communication and those kind of things. Just wiped it out, took it down.
Oh, man.
And this was at about 12 o'clock at night. I work better at night, so I am up late. But anyway, so I just, at that point, it's 12 o'clock. I'm like, no biggie. I can figure this out. But I couldn't get the settings back to the way they I don't want to get too technical, but anyway, it was just something that I had no record of what it used to be. For some reason, I didn't have that backup, and I just couldn't figure it out. And about 5 o'clock, so from 12 to 5 o'clock in the morning, I am flipping out because if business starts, these guys do, millions of dollars a day in transactions, and if I can't get things up and running, they're out that.
All their communication was down.
Yeah, right.
Emails and everything.
Emails, everything, website, everything.
Oh,
and
that sounds awful, man.
And so here I am, just freaking out, flipping out, pacing around, crying. And this is another spiritual thing. I sit down, I kneel down, I just pray. I'm like, I don't know if there's any way out of this. Maybe I'm just going to have to, get canned. But, it wasn't about my position at that point. It was just more of, I feel bad about what I'm doing with. And anyway, a thought came to me, call this guy. I'm like, what? What? This guy didn't have anything to do with anything. Anyway, so I call him, and he had just woken up. He was on the East Coast, so 5 o'clock there, 7 o'clock there. Thank goodness. He hadn't just waken up, but enough. It was early enough to where he hadn't gone out the door and was available on his phone. Anyway, so I'm explaining to him the situation, and he's like, oh no. And then he's sitting there thinking, and I'm walking him through some of the settings and things, and he just says, try this that you just told me. And I did, and boom, wow. things worked. But the crazy thing is that he was not that type of guy. He didn't know anything about that kind of stuff.
Oh, he wasn't in IT. He wasn't in.
No.
Oh, wow.
So, but what he had told, so everything was working. Anyway, he called me back 4 or 5 hours later, and he said, I just wanted to let you know that I don't know how I knew that.
Huh.
He said, about 6 months ago, I was just browsing around in, in some information or whatever, and my eyes were drawn to that piece of information that I told you.
And he stored it for 6 months randomly.
And when you told me that you were having this issue, that piece of information came back up in my mind. Now, that's some crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So,
that's awesome. Yeah, and that does sound like a brutal moment, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man, awesome.
Bad.
Let me ask you this. What's the one lesson you would share, or the one piece of advice you'd have for other people who want to go out on their own, self-employed entrepreneurs or just starting a business? What's the one thing you would say to them that you've learned?
Yeah, I think for me, the most valuable thing that I have is my gut, but it is the ability to discern my gut from my pride, from thinking that I know. So my gut tells me to go forward with a lot of unknowns in a way that I don't understand. But my brain, or my pride, that sometimes I mistake for my gut, makes me go forward thinking that I know the unknowns. So examples are, going from the impression that I had to start an internet business and not knowing much about it, and following step by step things that I really had no clue what I was doing or why I was doing them in a way, versus with my skill set, I do a lot of A/B testing. I do a lot of scientific tests.
Okay.
And to figure out, it's optimization. And there are times there where I think it's my gut. I think I know the right thing. And then it turns out that it's absolutely wrong. So I would say, like I said, know the difference between your gut and your pride. Follow your gut, check your pride.
Awesome. Stay humble and keep it. Have a balance and a check system in the way you make your decisions.
Right.
Awesome, man. That's a great piece of advice. Last question for you is kind of a fun one, but what do you do? I always say it's a Saturday in July. You don't have to work. There's no clients calling. Where are we going to find you? What are you going to be doing for fun, or what are some of the things you love to do?
I was going to say Little Caesars, but recently I've kind of sworn that off. But really, on a Saturday afternoon, if I wasn't married, it would be a time with some Little Caesars.
Yeah.
But now I'm usually going for a walk on my favorite trail.
Nice.
Or if me and my wife can mountain bike, that's where it'd be.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming in. So just a couple things I really liked about that one. I love what he's saying about, just trust your gut, but really get to know your gut, make sure it's you. Make sure you're led by something. And be willing to be wrong. Be willing to recognize that you're not always right, And sometimes when you think you're 100% right, you're going to be wrong. So build a good process, checks and balances in your life to make sure that you can make good decision making. I also love the conversation of just being in the right place, right time, just one step at a time. Figure out what you're supposed to be doing now, and then just jump and do that. And then at some point, the next step will come, and it will ultimately culminate to something great. And so anyway, appreciate you for coming in and spending time with us. And thanks, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for the next episode. Have a good one.
Everything will be